You guys, I've been sitting on this story for over a decade, and I'm finally ready to share it. This happened back in 2004, but the revenge? That sweet, sweet karma didn't hit until 2012. And trust me, when it did, it was worth every single annoying phone call I'd endured. So let me paint you a picture of 2004 in my country. Mobile phones had just become a thing. Like, we're talking about those chunky Nokia bricks that could survive a nuclear blast. I'd just finished high school, and my parents bought me my first phone. It was secondhand, bulky, and the 3 buttons stuck sometimes. But I loved that thing. I made myself a promise back then. One day, I'm going to buy myself a brand new phone with my own money. You know how it is when you're 18. Everything feels like this massive life goal. College started, and I had this brutal 2-hour daily commute. But here's where things get interesting. In high school, I'd been that kid, the one who actually enjoyed studying. I'd won several district-level academic awards, and they were finally distributing the prize money during my first year of college. One particular award from a nationalized bank, that was my golden ticket. The moment that money hit my account, I practically ran to the phone store. I bought myself a Sony Ericsson K300i. And if you remember those, you know they were the premium phones back then. Color screen, camera, the works. But here's where I made my first mistake. I wanted everything to be perfect, so I splurged on a premium SIM card too. One of those easy-to-remember numbers. What I didn't realize was that easy to remember also meant previously owned by someone who really didn't want to be found. Day 1 with my new number? Bliss. I was showing it off to everyone, feeling like I'd finally made it. Day 2? Still good. A few random calls, but I figured it was just people dialing wrong numbers. Day 3. That's when the nightmare began. The first call came at 7 a.m. I was getting ready for college when my phone rang. The caller ID showed some bank's name, and my heart jumped. Maybe they were calling about another award? Hello? Is this Mr. Bitsa? The voice on the other end sounded tired, like they'd made this call 1,000 times before. No, sorry, wrong number. Sir, please don't lie. We know this is Bitsa's number. You have an outstanding loan of... I hung up. My stomach was doing this weird thing where I felt guilty, even though I'd done nothing wrong. You know that feeling? 20 minutes later, another call. Different bank. Same story. They wanted someone named Bitsa who owed them money. By noon, I'd received 6 calls. By evening, it was 12. Each caller was more aggressive than the last. Some accused me of being Bitsa and lying about it. Others threatened legal action. One particularly nasty debt collector said, "We know where you live." I was 18, in college, and suddenly, I was being hunted for someone else's debts. The premium number I'd been so proud of, it was turning into a curse. But here's the thing about me. I'm stubborn. Like, really stubborn. Everyone told me to just change my number, but I'd waited so long for this phone. Saved for so long. I wasn't going to let some guy named Bitsa ruin it for me. So I started keeping a list. Every number that called looking for Bitsa got written down in this little notebook. Back then, blocking numbers was device-specific. So whenever I'd eventually get a new phone, I'd spend the first hour manually blocking every single number from my list. The calls never stopped. For 8 years, I got calls looking for this Bitsa carrot. Banks, credit card companies, loan sharks, microfinance institutions. This guy had apparently borrowed money from everyone and their grandmother, then vanished into thin air. The worst part, the calls weren't just annoying, they were threatening. These weren't polite "sir, you have an outstanding balance" calls. These were "we will destroy your life" calls. I learned more about debt collection tactics than any college student should ever have to know. But I adapted. I got good at the wrong number routine. I could shut down a debt collector in under 10 seconds. Not Bitsa, number changed hands. Have a nice day. Goodbye. Click. Dot. I thought that was the end of it. Just an annoying quirk of my phone number that I'd have to live with. I had no idea that one day I'd actually meet Bitsa. And when I did, everything would change. Fast forward to 2009. I'd graduated, landed my first real job, and honestly, life was pretty good. The Bitsa calls had become background noise. Still annoying, but manageable. In 2010, I got assigned to a new project. The moment my manager told me about it, I saw his face change. You know that look people get when they're about to deliver bad news? That "I'm sorry, but" expression? "You're being assigned to Bit's team," he said. And the way he said it, it was like he was sending me to war. "Who's Bits?" I asked, naive and innocent. My manager just shook his head. "You'll find out." The first day on Bit's team, I understood why everyone looked at us with pity. Bits wasn't just a bad manager. He was a special kind of monster who'd somehow figured out how to weaponize corporate culture. Picture this. You walk into the office at 8 a.m., and there are already 17 emails from Bits. Each one is marked urgent with 3 exclamation points. Each one contradicts the previous one, and each one ends with some variation of failure to complete will result in immediate escalation. Bits ruled through fear. He had this way of making you feel like you were constantly failing, even when you were doing everything right. He'd change deadlines without telling anyone, then scream at you for missing them. He'd demand reports at 11 p.m., then berate you for the quality when you submitted them at midnight. Team meetings were psychological warfare. He'd pick one person to humiliate each time, and you never knew who it would be. I once watched him make a grown man cry over a font choice. A font choice. "This is Calibri," he screamed, his face turning purple. "I specifically said Arial. Are you trying to sabotage this project?" The guy tried to explain that the client had requested Calibri, but Bits wouldn't hear it. He went on a 20-minute rant about incompetence, lack of attention to detail, and how we were all replaceable. The worst part? He was smart about it. He never put his abuse in writing. The crazy emails were always about work, technically. The verbal abuse? No record. HR complaints? He'd gaslight you so hard you'd leave thinking maybe you were the problem. I lasted 6 months on his team before I managed to transfer out. Those 6 months felt like 6 years. I lost weight, developed insomnia, and started having panic attacks every Sunday night. Bits had this special talent for making work feel like psychological torture. But here's the thing. During those 6 months, I learned something interesting about Bits. He was from the same area as me. Went to the same school actually, though years before me. He'd brag about it sometimes, about how he'd made it out and how the rest of us were still stuck in that mindset. I hated him. We all did. But we were also terrified of him. He had connections, he had power, and he seemed to take genuine pleasure in making our lives miserable. Little did I know, karma was about to come calling. And it would be holding 8 years of unpaid bills. 2012 was a big year for our company. We merged with our parent company, and suddenly everything changed. New systems, new processes, new everything. But the best change? We got Microsoft Outlook. Now, I know that sounds boring, but hear me out. With Outlook came something beautiful. An organizational chart. Date. For the first time I could see everyone's full names, their positions, their contact information. I was casually browsing through it one day, trying to figure out who to contact about a project, when I saw it. Bits Kumar Tadai. Full name. Bitsa Kumar. Extension 2847. I stared at that screen for a solid minute. My brain was doing this thing where it was connecting dots, but refusing to believe the connection. Bitsa? As in, the Bitsa who'd been dodging debt collectors for 8 years? The Bitsa whose financial crimes had been haunting my phone number since 2004? No, it couldn't be. Bitsa was a common enough name, and lots of people had debt problems. This was just a coincidence. But the more I thought about it, the more the pieces started fitting together. The area code of my phone number matched where Bits was from. The timeline worked out. He would have been in his early 20s in 2004. Prime time for making stupid financial decisions. I needed to know for sure. I reached out to my old mentor, Mr. Paddle. He'd been tutoring kids in our area for over 20 years. If anyone would know, it would be him. Mr. Paddle, do you remember a student named Bitsa Kumar? Would have been about 10 years older than me. The silence on the other end of the line told me everything I needed to know. Why are you asking about him? Mr. Patel's voice had that careful tone people use when they're trying not to say too much. He's my manager at work. I just found out he's from our area and... Be careful around him, Mr. Patel interrupted. That boy was trouble even back then. Always trying to take shortcuts, always thinking he was smarter than everyone else. I heard he got into some financial trouble after college, but then he disappeared. His family doesn't even mention him anymore. My heart was pounding. Financial trouble? What kind? The kind where you borrow money from everyone and never pay it back. The kind where you use your family members' names to take out loans. The kind where you have to change your phone number and disappear. Holy, you know what. Bits wasn't just Bitsa. Bits was the Bitsa. The one who'd been ruining my life with debt collector calls for 8 years. The one who owed over $200,000 to various financial institutions. The one who'd been using his wife's name, his parents' names, everyone's names to scam banks. And now he was my former boss, still walking around like he owned the place, still terrorizing employees, still acting like he was untouchable. I sat there in my apartment, looking at my phone. The latest smartphone bought with my own money, but still carrying that cursed number. 8 years of harassment. 8 years of threats. 8 years of blocking numbers and explaining wrong number to increasingly aggressive collectors. And the person responsible was making 6 figures at my company while making everyone's life hell. That's when I realized something beautiful. I had something Bits didn't know I had. I had a direct line to every single person he'd been running from for almost a decade. The question wasn't whether I should do something about it. The question was how to do it in a way that would hurt him the most. I need you guys to understand something. I'm not usually a vengeful person. I believe in karma, in letting the universe sort things out. But 8 years of harassment? 6 months of psychological torture? Finding out that the same person was responsible for both? That changed me. I spent 3 days planning. Not because the plan was complicated, but because I wanted to make sure I did this right. I wasn't going to do anything illegal. I wasn't going to lie. I was simply going to tell the truth to people who'd been looking for it for a very long time. First, I unblocked every single number in my phone. All 150 plus of them. My blocked list looked like a phone book of financial institutions across the country. Banks, credit card companies, recovery agencies, loan sharks. Bitsa had borrowed from everyone. Within an hour of unblocking, my phone started ringing. 8 years of pent-up calls came flooding in. My phone was lighting up like a Christmas tree. Hello, is this Mr. Bitsa? No, I said. And for the first time in 8 years, I didn't hang up. But I have some information about him that might interest you. The debt collector on the other end paused. Go on, Dio. The person you're looking for is named Bitsa Kumar. He changed his number 8 years ago. He now works at my company as a project manager. His new number is, oh yeah. And then I gave them Bit's work number. His direct extension. The one that rang straight to his desk. Also, I added, feeling a strange calm wash over me, if he tries to avoid you, his manager's name is Robert Chen. Extension 2851. I'm sure Mr. Chen would be very interested to know if one of his managers is avoiding legal financial obligations. The debt collector's voice changed completely. Sir, can you repeat that information? I did. Slowly. Clearly. I even spelled out the names. Thank you, they said, and there was something almost reverent in their voice. We've been looking for him for 8 years. I know, I said. He's been making my life hell for just as long. That first call felt like therapy. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Over the next 2 days, I fielded call after call. Each time, I gave the same information. Bit's full name. His work number. His manager's number. The company address. His department. Do. Everything a debt collector could possibly need to track down someone who'd been hiding in plain sight. Some of the callers told me details I hadn't known. Bits hadn't just taken out loans. He'd committed fraud. He'd used his wife's documents without her knowledge. He'd forged his parents' signatures. He'd listed this phone number, my phone number, as the contact for over 20 different loans. He owes us 2.5 million rupees, one bank manager told me. We have 17 cases filed against him, but we couldn't serve notice because we couldn't find him. Another caller from a microfinance company was almost in tears. He took loans meant for small business owners. That money was supposed to help people start their lives. We've been trying to find him for years. The more I learned, the angrier I got. This wasn't just about personal inconvenience anymore. Bits had stolen money meant for people who actually needed it. He'd ruined his family's credit. He'd been living a comfortable life while leaving destruction in his wake. And he was still walking around our office like he was God's gift to project management. By the end of the second day, I'd spoken to 19 different financial institutions. Each one now had Bit's current information. Each one thanked me like I'd just handed them a winning lottery ticket. But the best part, I knew exactly what was about to happen. Because debt collectors, they don't just call once. They call repeatedly, aggressively, relentlessly. And now they all had Bit's work number. Monday morning arrived, and I made sure to walk past Bit's office on my way to my desk. He was there early, as always, probably crafting another round of passive-aggressive emails to terrorize his team. 9:15 a.m., I heard his phone ring. He answered with his usual bark. Bit's Kumar. I couldn't hear the other end of the conversation, but I watched his face change. The color drained out of it like someone had pulled a plug. I think you have the wrong person, he said, his voice suddenly small. This is my work number. How did you? He hung up abruptly. 9:18 a.m. The phone rang again. Different line, lighting up. Bit's Kumar. No, I told you. Wrong person. Don't call this number again. 9:21 a.m. Another ring. "Stop calling me!" He slammed the phone down. But they didn't stop. Why would they? They'd been trying to reach him for 8 years. They had court cases pending. They had money to recover. And now, finally, they knew exactly where he was. By 10 a.m., Bits had stopped answering his phone. It just rang and rang and rang and rang. The sound carried across the office floor. Everyone was starting to notice. Then the emails started. Our company email addresses followed a standard format, easy to figure out if you knew someone's name. The debt collectors had figured it out. Bit's computer started pinging with email notifications. Based on his increasingly frantic clicking, I'm guessing they weren't friendly. By lunch, Bits looked like he'd aged 10 years. He wasn't screaming at anyone. He wasn't sending hostile emails. He was just sitting at his desk, staring at his continuously ringing phone like it was a snake about to bite him. Then came the killing blow. 2:30 p.m., Robert Chen, Bit's manager, walked over to Bit's office. He did not look happy. "Bits," he said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "I've received several concerning calls about you today. Something about outstanding debts. Legal cases. Would you care to explain why debt collectors are calling me about your financial obligations?" Bits stammered something incoherent. Robert Chen's voice got even colder. "I've also received documentation from 3 different banks about fraud cases." "Fraud, Bits. They're saying you've been evading legal summons for 8 years. They're threatening to serve papers here, at our office." The entire floor had gone silent. Everyone was pretending to work, but nobody was actually working. We were all listening to Bit's world collapse. It's a misunderstanding," Bits managed. "These are old issues, I can explain." "You can explain to HR," Robert Chen interrupted. "And to legal. And probably to the police, from what I'm hearing. Clear out your desk. You're suspended pending investigation." I wish I could say I felt bad watching Bits pack up his desk. But I didn't. I thought about all the people he'd terrorized. All the employees who'd quit because of him. All the panic attacks and sleepless nights he'd caused. And I thought about 8 years of phone calls. 8 years of being harassed for his crimes. 8 years of his mess following me around. And as Bits walked out, carrying his box of belongings, his phone was still ringing. Even from across the floor, I could hear it. Ring dine. Ring die Joe. Ring dine. Just like mine had for 8 years. The next few weeks were like watching dominoes fall. Word spread quickly about why Bits had been suspended. Suddenly, everyone had a story about him. Former team members came forward with complaints they'd been too scared to file. HR discovered years of suppressed reports. But the real drama was happening outside the office. One of my colleagues who still lived in Bit's neighborhood told me the collection agents had started showing up at his house. His wife had apparently been blindsided. She had no idea he'd used her name for loans. His parents were furious. 8 years of lies were unraveling all at once. The fraud cases were the most serious. Using family members' documents without consent? That's criminal. The banks had been building cases for years, just waiting to find him. Now they had him. 3 weeks after that Monday morning, we got an official email. Bits Kumar was no longer with the company. No explanation, just a terse announcement. But we all knew why. The calls to my phone? They stopped almost immediately. For the first time in 8 years, my phone was quiet. No more debt collectors. No more threats. No more is this Bitsa. Just peace. I kept that phone number, by the way. Partially out of stubbornness, partially as a reminder. Every time I look at it, I remember that karma might take its time, but it always keeps receipts. A few months later, I ran into Mr. Patel again. He'd heard about what happened to Bits. "I heard he's facing serious legal troubles," he said. "Multiple fraud cases. His family has disowned him. He's having to sell everything to pay back what he owes." "That's rough," I said, trying to sound sympathetic. Mr. Patel looked at me shrewdly. "I also heard that someone gave the debt collectors his work information, after 8 years of them not being able to find him." I shrugged. "Karma works in mysterious ways." He smiled. Yes, it does. So here's the thing, guys. I've thought a lot about whether I did the right thing. Some people might say I should have just let it go. That holding on to anger for 8 years is unhealthy. That revenge doesn't solve anything. But here's what those people don't understand. This wasn't about revenge. This was about justice. Bits had spent 8 years running from his responsibilities while making other people's lives miserable. He'd stolen money, destroyed his family's credit, and then built a career on terrorizing others. He was a bully who'd never faced consequences. Those calls I got for 8 years, they weren't just inconvenient. They were threatening. They affected my mental health. They made me anxious every time my phone rang. Oh, and why? Because one person decided he was above the law. And then, to find out that same person was my boss. The one who'd made my work life hell. The one who'd driven good people to quit. The one who took pleasure in others' misery. Sometimes the universe gives you an opportunity to balance the scales. Sometimes, karma needs a little help. I didn't lie to anyone. I didn't make up stories. I simply connected people who needed to be connected. The debt collectors got their debtor. The company got rid of a toxic manager. His victims got justice. And me? I got peace. For the first time in 8 years, I could answer my phone without anxiety. I could give out my number without explaining its history. I could move on. The last I heard, Bits was working at some small firm barely making ends meet while paying off his debts. His reputation in our industry was destroyed. His family relationships were shattered. His life was essentially what he'd been trying to make everyone else's. Miserable. And you know what? I sleep just fine at night. Why? Because here's the truth about bullies and scammers and people who think they're untouchable. They're only powerful as long as their secrets stay hidden. The moment light hits them, they crumble. Bits thought he could reinvent himself. He thought he could leave his past behind and build a new life on the suffering of others. He thought wrong. So, to anyone out there dealing with their own version of Bits, someone who's making your life hell, someone who thinks they're above consequences, remember this story. Remember that sometimes justice takes time. Sometimes it takes 8 years. But sometimes, if you're patient, the universe hands you exactly what you need. And when it does, don't hesitate. Some people deserve every bit of karma coming their way. As for me, I finally changed my phone number last year. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because for the first time in almost 2 decades, I could choose my number freely, without baggage, without history. It's a small thing maybe, but it feels like freedom. And Bits? Well, wherever he is now, I hope his phone is ringing. I hope it rings the way mine did for 8 years. I hope every ring reminds him that you can run from your past, but you can't hide from it forever. Because karma, my friends, karma always has your number.